Hey, everyone, it's Lunch with Mal. And I really hope you can't hear the sound of the trimming saw. I forget what they're called, the little nibbly buzz cutty saws going on in the background. We're having our bathroom redone right now, and they're working on re-drywalling the shower, and it's loud. Um, so it's going to distract me, but hopefully it doesn't distract you. So yeah, we are. This is the second lunch with Mal in our new house, and we're getting pretty settled in. You can tell by the boxes down there that we're not fully settled in yet. But to be honest, like this room doesn't feel like a total disaster zone anymore, so that's pretty nice. And other than the upstairs bathroom currently being gutted, the main areas are actually all really good. The bedrooms already they're kind of like the last stage. So, oh yeah, I don't know if we have any AAA batteries, honey. You could steal one from the remote temporarily, though, um, or you could come in and grab my extra cute headphones. Good morning, Tim. See, I got these. I got these. Wait, where's the button for the light? Here we go. Ta-da! So you could get all the action if you really wanted, honey. Um, anyway, but yeah, you could also just steal a AAA battery from the remote. I have some other ones in here. I'm sure everybody finds our battery stories riveting. I swear, the price of AAA batteries. I was at a pharmacy, which is a Canadian pharmacy. And it was $8 for two AAA batteries, and they're Duracell, so they're not some no name brand. But I'm like, I'm pretty sure I could spend $8 and get like a dozen of these on Amazon. And good morning, Tim. How are you doing today? So yeah, today the topic is often Facebook ads, and it is again today the main topic. Um, now that we've been settled, I've been able to spend like most of this week pretty much just immersed for the entire day in the land of Facebook ads, and yeah, my only determination is that change is the only constant. Like I said in the description for this video, my computer is leaking. I'll have to deal with that later. Yes, I have a water cooled computer, and I must not have tightened something up properly because it is doing the dripping. It is just water though, so it's fine. Anyway, yeah, or Walmart. You're right, Tim. We don't go to Walmart, right? Because it's Walmart. We avoid Walmart whenever possible, which isn't all the time. I'll admit I do shop at Walmart sometimes. I try to shop at Canadian Tire and Home Hardware. Um, for those of you who are in America or other countries and are not familiar with Canadian Tire is the most interesting store in the universe. It used to like be mostly an automotive shop, but over time, it's like almost Walmart level of stuff, um, kind of thing. Like it's still an automotive store, but you can also get all your home improvement tools. It has a pet section, it has outdoor furniture, it has basically, other than a lumber yard, everything a Home Depot has, plus a food area and home appliances. It's kind of nuts. I think, and also most of them have a store called a Marks next to them, and Marks also sells clothing. So the only thing they really don't have is like a full grocery store. And I would not be shocked if there are Canadian Tires out there with like full grocery stores in them as well. It's kind of wild. Rucha, what did they change now? Everything? Oh, you found a battery in the battery box. Nice. That's awesome, buddy. Um, it's interesting because like as an individual, you might not notice that much change in the ad manager because what Facebook typically does is they test out different changes with different people. They'll take segments of their audience and they'll try different changes with them. Me working on so many ad accounts, I see a lot of these changes, and it can actually be really confusing for me because I'll go from one ad account to the next, and things will completely move where they are. I think, to be honest, I think the most annoying change that they've made this year, if I want to think of something that's just as irking me, is if you're running a non-dynamic creative ad, when you want to set up your when you want to go in and put in your image and your text and all that, it walks you through that wizard flow thing. So the first time you do it, you go through this pop up with all these different steps, and then it's just all on the page, and you can just edit things manually from there. They used to have that like back in 2017, I think is when it finally went away. It might have been, no, it was early 2018. Making the ad had an entirely different interface than editing the ad, and they combined it all down to just be one interface. So editing an ad and making an ad looked the same. And it was wonderful because then you didn't have to remember these two different ways. And they're going back to it, and it drives me bonkers. Like, we don't need a wizard flow for all these things. But the reason why they have that is they want to squeeze in all of their AI nonsense um, into and kind of like get you to turn it all on without really knowing. And it's been, hey Rebecca, nice to see you. It's been super annoying, and that's been like really the name of the game for Facebook this year, is them trying to jam AI into everything in the platform. Um, and it's funny, like people talk to me, they're like, well, apparently the recommendation is to, I've been hearing everybody say, just turn off all the AI stuff. And I'm like, I've been saying that since January of 2024. Turn off all the AI stuff. It's just not good enough at targeting yet. And like, and by the way, one of the ways you can spot AI stuff in the Facebook platform is it's almost exclusively all labeled Advantage Plus. So anytime you see Advantage Plus this or Advantage Plus that, it's AI. And also, there, in depending on the kind of ad you're running and which version of the ad manager you have, you might see things like when you go to put in age groups and gender and all that, a toggle for whether or not you want to use it as a suggestion or not, and make sure you always uncheck the suggestion toggle box so that Facebook does not take it as a suggestion and actually like listens to the settings that you put in. Um, oh, I know Tim mentioned the AI thing has been the name of the game for all the tech companies. It's absolutely true, but most of us don't spend thousands of dollars a month with the other tech companies. I mean, probably some people do too. Um, but yeah, so that's sort of just the rule of thumb, is anything that says Advantage Plus, turn it off. And the AI targeting has been getting better. And if you're running an audience that if you want to write something that's like really middle of the road, like a standard thriller kind of book, or maybe standard fantasy, hero's journey kind of fantasy that appeals really broadly to both men and women, the Advantage Plus targeting can actually work for you. But the problem is that if you write something that's very gender specific, like romance generally is, the Advantage Plus stuff will show your ads to men. And heaven forbid you put a picture with an attractive woman on your ad. Advantage Plus will probably show your ad exclusively to men, which kind of sucks, because what you end up having to do if you're using any of the AI stuff is you really have to lean into the stereotypes super hard, which limits your creativity and honestly gets a little bit obnoxious as well. That's been one of the things that's been pretty annoying for me with having to do stuff. Like I was talking with someone just 2 days ago about their ads, and I'm like, your ads are going to eventually show to if you run Advantage Plus, your ads are going to show to everybody, which means you basically have to only put men on your romance ads. Otherwise, if you put women on them, men are going to click. And she's like, well, that's kind of unfortunate. I'm like, yes, it is. Heaven forbid you write sapphic romance, right? You write sapphic romance and you need to use Advantage Plus, or you're trying Advantage Plus, it's just going to show up. And it's so obnoxious too, because you think that Facebook, like, this is one of those areas where Facebook should be making this gender selection thing like a hard option, even when you're using Advantage Plus targeting, but they don't. Oops, just dropped my brush. And so, what was I going to say? I got distracted. Oh, so I'm always thinking to myself, like, what if you're like, right, if you're selling like men and women's undergarments, like you kind of want gender-based targeting, because you don't, there's no reason to ever, I mean, imagine trying to advertise bras and using Advantage Plus targeting, and you're showing pictures of women wearing bras. It's like, it's just going to show to men because men are going to click on it the most. And everything across the board, every kind of social media, whether it's the social media's native platforms, like they're just regular, like, you post stuff to your friends and whatnot to see, or it's their advertising platforms. Everything is all based on a learning phase where you make content, be it an ad or a regular post, and it gets shown to a small snippet of people. And then based on how those people react, Facebook or Twitter or TikTok or Instagram or whatever will then show your content to people like the people who clicked, and they'll have a variety of internal parameters for how they figure out who is like who. And if nobody is interested in your content, then it just stop showing it to anybody. Um, and so it's really important that like everything is really on target and on brand, because if that first group of people that sees it is wrong, then you're going to have a problem. Now, also of interest, if you really kind of think about that even further, let's say you write cozy mysteries, um, and your audience is an older audience, potentially most of them being retired. Well, and you're advertising in the United States. Now, the majority of your readers are going to be on the East Coast of the United States. That's where the majority of the American population lives. Um, and you have to think, okay, I'll say you're in the UK, and you go and make your ad at 8 in the morning UK time. Well, that's 3 in the morning Eastern Standard Time, where most of your audience is going to live for your US ad. However, it is 11 at night on the West Coast. So you might get your ad, your learning phase is likely to be whoever is up at 11 p.m. on the West Coast. And if you picked a broad age range, 35, 65 plus or something like that, you might get an entirely different age bracket than you were intending to get, just based on when people are likely to be doing things. Um, and the same is also true for like running your ads turning on new ads on the weekends. People's browsing behavior is wildly different on the weekends versus the weekdays. So usually you don't want to turn on new ads or make major audience-based changes to your existing ads on the weekends, because it'll kick it into a learning phase at a weird time. So you really want to think like, okay, are my ads, my ads, I want to show them to gaming nerds or something like that. Like I built an audience that targets a bunch of gaming nerds. Well, again, if I want to target a bunch of gaming nerds, I probably shouldn't turn my ad on at 11 in the morning Eastern Standard Time. I should probably fire my ad up, at like 6 p.m., because most of my gaming nerds are going to be younger. They're probably, they're not super young, but they're all pre-retirement mostly. Um, and also depending on the games you're targeting. And they're going to be at work, getting ready for work at 8 a.m. You probably want to catch them earlier if possible. They're still doom scrolling in bed, but I think most younger people don't do much of that. They sleep in really late because they stayed up late gaming. So you want to kind of catch them on the drive home, or maybe at their lunch break. So you want to turn your ad on sort of at the times when you think your audience might be kind of like tooling around. You might need to experiment with this a bit, but that's one of the biggest things, is because the that learning phase is so important. You really need to like experiment with it by time as much as anything else. And that's been one of the big things I've been thinking about lately. Because if you've been doing ads a bit, you've probably like found that you can take an ad that's working great and duplicate it exactly as it is, and it won't work at all. You could take the same ad, same audience, same creative, same everything, and make it 10 times, and each one will behave differently. And a big part of that is when you make it, because when you first make an ad, you've made this big audience of like 5 million people. But the learning phase happens with the first 700 to 1,000 people. And once Facebook shows that ad to the first 700,000 people, it builds a smaller internal audience of who it's going to show your ad to, that's maybe only like 100,000 people versus like the full 5 million that you picked. But that first 100,000 people audience that your ads will be running with for a month or two is based on that first 1,000 people who saw it, which is a tiny sliver of this overall thing. So a lot of and we can't control all the circumstances of who sees that ad initially, but you could at least use time of day to narrow it down a little bit. Rucha, I still get confused with what to disable or what to keep on. There's a lot. We're going to be probably doing, maybe later in the fall, another beginner class for Facebook ads in our school. Our courses, we have a thing that runs on schools, storytellerlab.net, and we run all of our courses and classes in there. And I think it's going to be time to do another beginner class before too long, because so much has changed this year. I couldn't even succinctly go through what you should turn on and turn off right now. It takes like an hour to kind of go through that. The general gist of it though is turn off almost everything. Most of the bells and whistles in the Facebook ad platform aren't made for us. They're made for people who run dozens or hundreds of ads and need a bunch of, quality of life improvements or tools to make it easier for them to manage their ads. They're not made for people who are running 5 or 6 ads. It's kind of one of the ways to think about it. Dun, dun, dun. Monique says, "This is why I have my computer on EST." That totally makes sense. I like that thought process a lot. Richard says, how much, I'm going to show this here, how much using SEO keywords in Facebook ad effective and where can you use them? I mean, everywhere, basically. Any text that you put in, it's not really SEO because it's not search engine optimization. It's actually AI interpretation optimization, like giving the AI the right words so that it understands what your ad is about. And every piece of text is for that. However, you have to keep in mind that all this text also shows to humans. So if you're going to do it, it's got to be human readable and not look like gobbledygook to humans. The best place generally to put all of this is in the description box, though. If you're going to try and like list out your tropes or something like that you would do in the description box, sort of as a quick answer. Yeah, it's kind of a wild thing to think about, isn't it? Just the idea that the time of day can make a difference. And it used to be less of an impact by a long shot because um, we used to be able to really narrow our audiences down. Like I could say, like, show this ad only to people who read Jodie, or not Jodie Foster, Melissa Foster, and I don't have to worry about the time of day because I'm getting Melissa Foster fans, and that's the people I want. But now, no matter what option you pick, detailed targeting, like picking an interest like contemporary romance or an author or something like that, it's only partially followed. So you can never really guarantee that the people you've chosen to have your ad show to are the ones that will actually show to. So you have to also think about other angles. We did, yes, and I think we should definitely do it because so much has changed since the last time we did a beginner class that I feel like the recommendations are getting out of date. It's actually been like I've been wanting to do a 4th edition of Help My Facebook Ads Suck, but the platform won't stand still enough for me to take like good screenshots of everything. I'm actually going to have to sort of reword the book, be like, look for an option that looks like this, and maybe even a thing like how to understand the sentiment in the Facebook platform, because the wording can change from one account to the next. The where check boxes are moves. All sorts of things are like all over the place right now from one person to the next. There's no real consistency to the platform anymore. So it's been really hard to actually write the book about how to do everything right now. You are very welcome, Jody. So yeah, that's kind of my thought. It's so, but so that's the Facebook you bastard news. The good news is that if you've listened to me, like, there's been a couple of points this summer where I've said, like, I don't know if Facebook advertising for authors is going to be viable long term, or if we're going to need to find something new. And I tell you, August was awful. Um, it was super hard to keep ads running for any decent period of time, like more than a couple of weeks. Um, it was super hard to get ads that really would kick off and do well. But September has stabilized a bit. So I'm actually pretty optimistic about that, about things like getting back into more of a normal groove this September. And that is normal, by the way. August is always one of the worst months of the year. I would say that August and February um, are kind of tied for the 2 worst months of the year. Although sometimes August is fine and it's late June, early July. That's a complete crapshoot. This year, mid July was actually really good, though. Mid July faked me out. I didn't think August was going to be as bad as it was, but it ended up being bad. But I would say that, like, really since the beginning, like late spring, early summer, I've been struggling thinking like ads don't work as well as they used to. Um, and I've spent a lot of the time this summer sort of learning what I need to do differently. And Facebook's also been changing their platform a lot too. So I think that some of the things that I've learned, some things to do better with ads. Facebook has fixed a lot of things in the platform that were kind of iffy for a while. Uh, and I think together they've worked towards making September better. But I do think the thing that we have to sort of accept is that your ads will show to just about anybody at a certain point. So currently, we can still control country, gender, and age with our ads, but beyond that, they can show to anybody, which means our creative has to get even better. We have to get more and more on point with what our ads look like, um, with what kind of genre and trope signals they give, and also really maximizing our use of all of the creative, making sure that we signal both to humans and to AI what our ads are about. Yep, that's a pretty common sentiment, Rebecca. I've experienced that with a number of people I run ads for. How I was like, oh, things are cooking in July. I could like take a breath, And then August happened, and it's just like, wow, this is awful. But the interesting thing is, I have some authors weathered August without an issue. August was just fine for them. So it's when things like that happen, I'm like, okay, this is not universal. There is some difference here between these books, between these ad accounts. Like it could also be off Facebook. It could be an Amazon change because most everybody at a higher level is running AMS ads too. So it gets hard to figure out like exactly what it is that's the hardest thing I think about all of this. We live in this situation where we're making changes to our ads. Facebook's making changes to the platform. Amazon's making changes to the platform. We're also doing social media content to varying degrees of success. The social media platforms are changing. Like consistency does not exist. I was doing yesterday. I recorded a presentation for the writing galas that they're going to be showing in an upcoming online conference that they're running, and I said like in the presentation, like I'm not going to teach you specifics here today about the platform because everything I would tell you right now is going to be incorrect in a month. What I want to teach you instead is how to analyze your ads better so that you can stay on top of ones that aren't working so they don't soak up all your money and cause you to have a loss. That's like the best strategy right now is analysis, 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 which a lot of authors don't like doing. I don't blame you. So my whole thing is to try and drill it down to as simple a process as possible for folks who don't want to spend their lives doing math. Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, I mean that could just be the algorithm made some choices about what content you like, Jody. It's really hard to say why that could be happening. I never get author ads, like never. You'd think I would, right? But most of my ads are for clothing. Actually, right now, most of my ads are home improvement related. Um, but the interesting thing is like one of the big things about the way the platform works is that you're going to get ads for the most expensive thing you're currently buying. If you start shopping for cars, your ads are all going to change to cars in a heartbeat. With some exceptions, like you might still get some things that aren't cars, but because Facebook can charge car manufacturers a lot more money per click than they can charge us. And of course, once you start shopping for appliances and microwaves and stuff like that, you're going to get way more. You're going to get that stuff because it costs. Those people will pay more per click than we will for our books. Yep, that's exactly right. That kicks off tomorrow. Storytellerlab.net, like Jill put in there. And also there's one called the 4 Pillars of Ad Analysis, which is actually what I was just talking about, analyzing your ads. And that's in the Master Classes for Success classroom. In Storyteller Lab, we have a bunch of classrooms, and each one has various ads in them. Well, it makes sense, honey, because you back Kickstarters a lot, and you like browsing Kickstarter. So I would totally imagine that you get that. I never get Kickstarter ads. I never get ads for like anything creative, like outside of clothing, like cool clothing and cosplay. I never get like ads for creative things at all. It's kind of weird. That's weird. That is weird. I don't know why you would get them if you don't click on them. Maybe you look at them or you pause and you study them, because Facebook does analyze what you're looking at based on how you pause in the feed. They've got that down to a science. So maybe that's what it is. Midlife bodies like me. I love it. I love it. Yes, agreed. That could be it. And one of the things that could change, actually, that's a really good point. Now that you mentioned like that, end of June, they got rid of author targets. So now people are having to resort to broader targeting. So maybe before people were targeting these specific authors that maybe you don't read, but now they're just targeting people who read romance novels or people who read thrillers or people who are into urban fantasy, which is an entertainment category on Facebook, not a literature category, and that might be capturing you. So that might be it. Actually, it might just be that it was an algorithm change uh, predicated on the fact that they have to target broader now, and now you're falling into the targets. So um, that's definitely a possibility. Yeah, yeah. The cool thing I did with the 4 pillars of ad analysis that I think is really neat. Let me see if I actually have it available to show you guys, because I think this is I mean, I think this is one of the coolest things I've done. Not to toot my own horn too much. All right, so you've all seen probably all seen my read through spreadsheet before, where I say like, here's you can put all your sales numbers, and I can tell you how much money you make every time you sell book one, and how many KU books reads you get every time you sell book one, just sort of as a ratio. And then you can say like, every time I sell book one or get a complete read through of book one in KU, this is how much money I'll make with read through. So all pretty neat. But the really cool thing comes from this analysis spreadsheet that I made. And what it helps figure out is um, how much money you make every time someone clicks, and that gets to be pretty cool. I also have like a simple way of scoring your ads, where you can just put in, you get a number for your CPCs. So this is all in US dollars. So if your CPC is over 40, you get a score of 0. If your CPC cost per click is less than 10, you get a score of 5. And then there's a way to figure out your conversion rate, which is how many pages read you get per click. And then more than 30 pages read per click is a 5. Most of the time, you're going to be around 10 to 14 pages read per click on a good ad. You'll get a score of 2. And then if you're wide, then you would use the sales number instead of the KU number. And you can get theoretically, you get a maximum score of 15, but really you're going to be getting a score in KU or in sales. So your maximum score is 10. And then you can like figure out like 5 is where profitability starts to kick in. If you have an ad that has a score of 5, it's probably profitable. Above 10 is wildly profitable, that sort of thing. So this is sort of a little quick thing. And the presentation goes this in a lot more detail. But then I've also got this thing where you can actually put in all of these numbers, and it tells you how much money you make every single time someone clicks. So this example, it shows you the numbers for both KU and sales, but as long as either one of these is green, it's fine, because the KU one makes enough money to pay for all of the sales. This number here is just like, if this ad didn't have any KU money coming in for this particular book, then it would be in the red. And it's very normal if you're in KU that your sales profitability would be in the red. But this particular book makes 33 cents every single time someone clicks, which means that it's profitable with a CPC up to 33 cents per click. But if I could get my CPC, my cost per click on my ad, down to 16 cents, I would be doubling my money. So this particular spreadsheet, it just takes a bunch of numbers from that I outline in the presentation, and a lot of them are actually taken from the read-through spreadsheet. So this one's taken from Facebook Ad Manager. These two are taken from Facebook or Amazon attribution data, and this one too. And these two are taken from my read-through spreadsheet. So you just pull these numbers from different places, you just plug them in, and it tells you if you're profitable or not. Just boom. So this is the value of a KU click, but because I have that my costs in there, it's my profit is lower. So it's a super cool spreadsheet. And I also got this little thing that shows you risk to reward. Like I give you a way of seeing what your risk to reward ratio is, and lower is better on ads, because one of the big things too is that actually, I'm not going to spoil it. It's all in the presentation. And again, you can go storytellerlab.net and watch that presentation. So let me turn this off. So yeah, so that's I think, and one of the things actually that I did with that, when I sort of created this concept of this new way of analyzing Facebook ads, it was because I was like, man, I keep teaching people how to different ways of analyzing Facebook ads, but I feel like it doesn't click for everybody. So this new way is another tool in the toolbox for people who other ways of analyzing Facebook ads didn't click. Maybe this one will, because everybody's different. Everybody learns different. And everybody learns from people differently. Like there are people who say like wasn't able to learn this from this other person, but I was able to understand the way you presented it and learned it. I'm thinking like, wow, I actually think they do a better job than I do at teaching this thing. But it really comes down to how each person learns. So I like to try what I try to do is I try to create a lot of different ways to present information so that depending on so it hopefully it'll click. Eventually someone will see the right version, right presentation of the information, and it will click for them in the way that it's needed. So but that's kind of everything I want to talk about. I am stoked if people want to sign up for storytellerlab.net because tomorrow we kick off the genre and trope workshop. And the big thing behind that is really learning how to research your own genre and tropes in your books, learning how to research and understand what other people are doing and how they're presenting it, and then which ways of presenting this information are working. Because there's a lot of options out there. Being an author is really interesting because everybody from like the first person out will be compared to like hockey. Everyone from the person trying on skates for the very first time to the pros, who are making seven figures are playing in the same hockey rink, right? Like we're all together in the same rink. There's no like Pee Wee League for writers or anything like that. I guess maybe there's fan fiction, but by and large, the person who published their first book and the person who published their 100th book are playing in the same space. So there's a lot of information out there, and there's a lot of things that work and don't work. So you can't just like look at, you can't be like, wow, I saw author XYZ ran this ad. It must be working. Well, you don't know if it's working, if it's just burning their money. Or you might see, a book that's doing really well in the ranking, and you might be like, well, their blurb and and everything must be really be cooking. I'm going to try and emulate what they did, but maybe they just got a book bump, and that's why they're ranking really well. You don't really know. So one of the things I teach is how we can really understand which things are working long term, which are proven things that have been working long term, and that we should be modeling ourselves after, and which things are not, so that we don't sort of make the mistake of choosing the wrong things to emulate. So that's a big part of the class. And then the second part of the class is all going to be, and this is a new part, how to put all this into our Facebook ads and make it so our Facebook ads are better at conveying genre and trope and tying in with our product page to sort of tell a complete story, because that's becoming more and more important, because with all these AI changes, we're losing control over who our ads show to. So, yep, there will absolutely be a replay stand. Everything will be recorded, so you don't need to be on anything live. And every week there's going to be an instructional session and a Q&A session. That's how we run pretty much all of our classes. So, so you can always watch the recordings, and we try to do them at slightly different times too. Although I'm not sure how we'll be pulling that off this time or not. Tomorrow's kicks off at 1 p.m. Eastern time, 11 a.m. Mountain, noon Central is where our kickoff is, and then the classes following onward will be running. Actually, looks like everything's is going to be at 1 p.m. Eastern times, and there'll be Wednesdays for instruction, Fridays for Q&A. So it should be fabulous, I think. Anyway, I have a bunch of calls this afternoon. This week has been like the week of like, okay, Mel, you got your time to move into your new house. Now you get all the calls. So I got a bunch of calls today that I need to get ready for. But it's awesome having more people back again. Summer was pretty sparse. I think I did one lunch with Mel where no one was there at all. But I get it, right? Like summer's crazy. We're all out and about. Schedules are inconsistent, but it's nice to be back in fall and have that bit of that consistency. And I think it totally maps to books as well. In fact, I was listening to a YouTuber doing a podcast talking about views, and all YouTubers are well aware of the August slump, as they call it. It's a pretty common thing over in YouTube land. So sort of the seasonality of readership, viewership interaction is across all industries, but it's always nice when we kind of get back to normal. We don't have this going on anymore. So thanks everyone for hanging out, and I will see you next week. And I hope I see a lot of you guys tomorrow at the class. Oh, by the way, like our school platform, by the way, is only $37 a month. There's no multi-month commitment unless you want to sign up for a year for a discount. You get access to everything that we're doing, and all of our historical classes and videos are in there as well. So you can basically get everything that's in my and Jill's brain for $37 a month. this particular class starts tomorrow, is going to go for probably 8 weeks. So you could get the whole thing for just 2 months payments and then cancel. You don't have to stick around after that. It's totally fine. Oh, it's 57 a month. I'm sorry. I misspoke. Um, pardon me. Um, all right. So I'll see you guys there. Have yourselves an absolutely fabulous weekend. Ciao.